The Aeroton Cocaine Files. The drugs moved, the story changed. The seizure was real. So was the chaos. Witness I, SANEB Investigator. He's a warrant officer and the backup plan. The drugs moved, the story changed. The cocaine is no longer the mystery. The cocaine was real. The shipment was real. The bust was real. The real mystery is the network around it. That's the question. Who knew about the shipment? Who was tracking it? Who controlled the intelligence? Who controlled the informer? Who controlled the crime scene? Why were there competing intelligence streams? Why were there so many unrelated people connected to the same container? Why does the same network of names keep reappearing? The drugs are the exhibit. The network is the story. They follow the shipment, follow the informer, follow the phones, follow the relationships, follow the intelligence, follow the network, because Aeroton was never just a drug bust. It was a network event. Witness I charge sheet. We're going to start with his version. The inquiry problem. The if you knew, why were you not there problem. The yellow jersey problem. The intelligence problem. The leak problem. The Maklala problem. The Brown Muhotzi problem. The SANEB problems. This guy has got a full charge sheet waiting for him. Now, let's go to his version. Witness I says SANEB already had intelligence concerning drugs moving from KZN. He says Aeroton became linked to an existing narcotics inquiry. He says SANEB was following his own intelligence stream independent from Tumelo Nku, Mahane, and Mashaba. What he wants us to believe, we were not born yesterday, by the way, but what he wants us to believe, we already knew about the drugs before they got to Aeroton. The inquiry problem. Witness I says Aeroton was linked to an existing SANEB inquiry. The evidence leader challenged that proposition and he just threw it out the window. Was the inquiry actually connected to the Aeroton shipment? No. Was the Aeroton retrospectively linked to an unrelated investigation? No. If the inquiry was real, where is the evidence connecting the Brazilian cocaine with the one that's coming from Mozambique? What witness I wants us to believe? Aeroton formed part of an existing SANEB investigation. We were not born yesterday. The evidence leader says, show us the link, because he didn't have it. Whatever he produced did not work. Now we move on to the next problem. If you knew, why were you not there? Problem. Witness I says SANEB already knew, yet the truck reaches Yellow Jersey. Nku is physically monitoring this truck and container. Mashaba is activated. Mohane is activated. Pakula is activated. Only later does SANEB linked structures emerge. If SANEB knew, why were they not on the ground tracking this truck and container? If SANEB did not know, how did they suddenly become involved? What witness I wants us to believe? We already knew about the shipment, but the commissioner of a lawyer, if SANEB knew, why wasn't Nku the only person visibly on the ground tracking this container? Why? The Yellow Jersey problem. The truck was at Yellow Jersey. The container was at Yellow Jersey. Tumelo Nku was at Yellow Jersey. He actually spent the night at Yellow Jersey. Yet, no SANEB surveillance was on the ground. No SANEB interception happened. No SANEB operational teams were waiting outside together with Nku. If SANEB had actionable intelligence, why was Yellow Jersey not the crime scene? These drugs were supposed to be offloaded right there at Yellow Jersey if everything was going well. What witness I wants us to believe that SANEB was already aware of these drugs. And the commission question is, if SANEB was aware, where were they? Only Tumelo Nku is physically monitoring this truck. Let's move on to the next problem. The intelligence problem. Witness I introduced a second intelligence stream. All along, we only knew about these drug busters. Nku, Mahane, and Mashaba. Now, Witness I brings a second stream. It's him, Witness I, Sergeant Masoma, SANEB, DPCI Narcotics. The commission was left with two competing intelligent narratives. Version A, Nku's information led to the bust. Version B, SANEB already knew. Which intelligence stream actually led to the drugs? Which stream was real? Because the two of them cannot exist at the same time. So which stream got there first? What Witness I wants us to believe is that SANEB already had the intelligence. The commission's question, if SANEB knew, where was Nku the only person on the ground monitoring this truck and the container? Anyway, we move on to another problem. The leak problem. Witness I repeatedly expressed concern about information leaks. Information could be compromised, certain channels could not be trusted, some information was deliberately not shared. So who was Witness I worried about? What information was he protecting? Why was SANEB allegedly unable to trust normal reporting channels? What Witness I wants us to believe, he was protecting the integrity of the investigation. We were not born yesterday, because the commission is questioning if everyone at SANEB is compromised, who exactly could be trusted? As the citizens, who can we trust if the PCI cannot be trusted? This leads us to another problem. Maklala problem. Witness I lived in a property connected to Maklala family. He stayed there for 2 years, he says, together with his family. Captain Zungu facilitated this arrangement after he was attacked apparently at his own home. Yet Witness I maintains he never met Maklala, he never spoke to Maklala, he never communicated with Maklala. He only met him years later after he had moved out of his house. The Zungu connection, Captain Zungu connection is a problem. The commission's concern was not necessarily that Captain Zungu did anything wrong. The concern was, why was Captain Zungu at the center of so many relationships? Because if you remove Captain Zungu altogether, then there will be no Maklala house, there will be no Maklala introduction, there will be no Brown Muhotsi meeting, no General Khan disciplinary meeting. It will not be there. Zungu becomes the bridge between multiple parts of a network. We need to figure out what is this network that Captain Zungu is related to. This is what the Aeroton drugs leads us. It leads us to a lot of things, infiltration into the criminal justice system. This is where these Aeroton drugs are leading us to. The possibility problem. The issue was never, did you know Maklala? No, that's not the issue here. The issue became, how many times can someone be 1 degree from a key person and still claim those relationships were insignificant? How possible is that Kate Maklala is insignificant? Ken Maklala is the biggest criminal ever. Well, I said it. It's not alleged. Ken Maklala is a criminal. And Witness I is just 1 degree away from him. And he claims he never met him. Yo, what Witness I wants us to believe. I lived in Ket Matlala's family home, but had no meaningful relationship with Ket Matlala. That is what he wants to convey to us. We were not born yesterday. The commission's question is, if the relationships were insignificant, why do the same names keep appearing around you when a witness I? Anyway, this leads us to the Brown Mohotsi problem. Witness I later appears in the same orbit as Brown Mohotsi, Captain Zungu, who is connected to several networks, General Khan's disciplinary proceedings that Lieutenant General Mkwananzi presided over. The commission explored meetings and relationships, including those individuals. How did these relationships develop in the first place? Why is the same names repeatedly appear together everywhere? What information was being exchanged in this I'll call it a mini network? What Witness I wants us to believe? They were isolated, innocent interactions. The commission is not taking it. Baloi, Commissioner Baloi wasn't born yesterday. Why does the same network keep reappearing? And I don't think I kind of caught the answer. If you guys listen to Witness I testimony and he gave a coherent answer about this, please put it down in the comments. The SANEB problem. This is the biggest problem. For me, the SANEB problem is the biggest one. SANEB is a South Africa's specialist narcotics structure. Yet in this Aeroton drug bust story, the truck arrives, the drugs are discovered, local actors dominate the operation. Only later does SANEB emerge. Why does the specialist narcotics unit appear after the cocaine has been exposed by some random people? Why was SANEB not leading the operation from the beginning if they had the intelligence? Because now we get to hear that they had the intelligence, and I'm still going to continue around this SANEB problem in my next recording. So keep following me because I'm going to explore the SANEB problem a little bit more. What Witness I wants us to believe that SANEB was already involved in this container intelligence. The question remains, if SANEB knew about these drugs in this container, why does everyone arrive last? This is kind of like puzzling. Commissioner Baloyi's question, if SANEB knew about the drugs, why was Tumelo Nku the only visible monitoring the track? Witness I testimony is driving me crazy. The network question, the issue is no longer who found the cocaine. The issue is who owned the intelligence, who knew before the Aeroton, who controlled the information, who controlled the narrative after the drugs were found. The drugs may have been the exhibit. The intelligence network may be the real story. See you on the next one.